I can't believe we're getting access to so many new ages.
Good news for us, because we pretty much shot the heck out of all the existing ages in Moolah. So, Joanne, did you ever imagine when you joined Misty Tech all those years ago that you'd be called upon to film, edit, do effects, not to mention giving Beatrice a voice?
We've certainly learnt a lot since then. But to answer your question, no. I knew nothing about filmmaking and thought I would just be helping the experts.
What part of the work do you enjoy the most?
Well, I really enjoy working with the others.
All of whom bring their own skills and sparkling personalities to the project. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Anything else?
The challenge. Every time we want a new effect or want to remove something intrusive, I have the task of working out how to do it and the satisfaction of seeing the transformation.
Yeah, solving problems can be incredibly rewarding.
We've had to do a lot of that.
And the part you dislike the most?
Roto brushing. Oh, we'd better get going. No doubt the team is bickering about something.
Probably over whose turn it was to bring the snacks.
Du jus chaussette.
Oui, j'ai le souvenir précis d'avoir suggéré des tasses à espresso, mais il n'y en avait pas en magasin.
Come to the Met Bay when Vittorio is on duty and he will make a proper cup of coffee.
Where are the macaroons? You guys promised there would be macaroons.
Oops.
Oh good, we're all set up.
Where were you?
Sightseeing.
Everybody ready?
Sorry, Joanne. Please start.
Keep in mind that we're talking about visual effects here, that is, effects added to the video after filming. The special effects wizardry performed on set by Pierre-Andre and Yoda will be covered in another Misty Tech TED Talk.
Event 98.
What did I miss?
We're just getting started.
Nora asked me to show you some of the visual effects I've done for the series, like the opening of this gate.
Which you do in After Effects.
Exactly. I don't know if any of you noticed this, but we weren't aware of the distinction between visual and special effects until episode 9, so everything before that was credited as a special effect.
Well, that isn't very professional.
Speaking of professional, After Effects software is expensive, but having it means that we can usually create whatever effect we want. And as Nora keeps upping the challenges...
Hey, I've got to keep all of you on your toes.
Are those all layers?
I'll actually explain all this when discussing composition.
Ooh, nice. I think I remember filming that.
Yes, you were in the egg room with Thomas and Felix Pope. I was really proud of this montage as it pulled together so many threads of the episode. People usually think of effects as something showy, and we have a few of these. For example, Yoda created this bomb on set, but then I amplified the explosion in post. This effect was created by David Wistrand for episode 3. And this is something I created for episode 6 to show Annie recharging in the Great Zero. But the majority of my work is not immediately obvious.
Alex's backpack, that's a great example.
When Alex fell over the cliff in episode 5, he was wearing his pack, so for continuity purposes we had to include it in the subsequent cave scenes.
So you went to your local Army and Navy store.
If only it were that easy. I had to take a screenshot of someone wearing the pack and then isolate the pack from the avatar.
I seem to recall looking for a particular spot in the Burrow Cave.
Exactly. For episodes 6 and 7, we identified a place where the pack would be, and then I added it to every clip which showed that location. But by episode 8, we realised Alex would be interacting with his pack. Here is a clip from this episode before the backpack was added. Because Alex is actually touching it in this scene, it was not just a simple case of pasting the pack onto the video. To truly integrate it into the setting, I had to go through a process of masking various elements.
Masking?
A mask is a graphic which sits over the top of the picture. It is generated by using this masking tool to cut out the appropriate shape from either a picture or a layer of solid colour. Most of these examples require several masks as they have to blend into the picture so the viewer is not aware that anything has been added. Blending the masks into each other and the underlying picture requires a lot of finessing using tools such as colour matching, transparency and feathering.
Good Lord, that must be incredibly time-consuming.
Tell me about it. The final part requires the isolation of Alex's hand. I then had to reposition it on top of the pack. This is done using an effect called roto brushing.
Your favorite activity. And are you going to demonstrate roto brushing?
If everyone hasn't fallen asleep by the time I get to it.
Sorry.
Carry on. I'm just getting our hiccupper a glass of water.
Several of our effects are created specifically to further elements of the plot. For instance, it is integral to our story that the egg-shaped stone at the centre of the Corel meditation room is unique, that it is the only one of its kind in the cavern. We reference this in dialogue, but also in this clip in episode 10, where we show a meditation room where one of the floating statues from Eddellen has been composited in to take the place of the more familiar eggstone. In this clip from episode 8, compositing a bit of walkway in post gives the impression that the avatar has just crossed the repair. From the beginning, we made the decision to aim for film reality in The Lost Art rather than game reality. This means I have masked out things that are important elements in the game, but that we don't use in our story.
I see. You want to draw the viewer away from the gaming experience and into the world of The Lost Art.
Yeah, this was really important right from the beginning. Unfortunately, that meant we were always catching Nexus pedestals and linking books in places where we didn't want them.
Every pixel removed is a labour of love. And because they are such a major part of our story, we wanted to be able to distinguish some of the Barrow. To that end, we gave Tiara and Champ different coloured eyes, and I put those in every clip that includes these characters. This is in contrast to the special effect used on set to make Chief of the Elders taller than the others. Here you can see a clip before the eye correction is applied. I add an effect called Change to Colour, selecting the colour I want to change and then creating the colour I want to substitute for the original. I discovered a complication with the Barrow eyes in that they are exactly the same colour as the smoke in the Barrow cave. So in this setting, I have to put a mask over the eye and apply the colour change to the mask, not the original clip, so that nothing else changes. But once all this has been done, it's a simple click of the mouse to give Tiara her beautiful turquoise eyes.
And how many times have you done this?
We probably don't want to know.
The DRC archives. Most of you weren't here back then, just Joanne, Graham and I.
Did Dulcamara build this?
This was before she and Doob started creating sets for us. It was Danielle Reeser who designed it, and then David Wistron created it in Blender. But we needed an interior for the archives, and I'm guessing fans will have recognised that we used the Baron's office for this. In the game, you link here, but for our purposes we needed to have a door. Nora and I created the door, and I created the passage behind it and the lighting effect in the passage. Then I had to paste it into all the clips showing this part of the room. I had to create the passage in 3D and cut a hole in the wall to get the perspective correct.
Oops.
There is a fault in the game mechanics, which means that when filmed from certain angles, these things tend to happen.
And Joanne is left to fix it.
I'm particularly fond of the coffee mug, which comes, goes, and changes to mark the passage of time. and most of you won't have even noticed it.
We will now.
Joanne, can you please explain compositing? Ah.
Ask and you shall receive. Editing software, as many of you know from our weekly editing sessions, is primarily concerned with the transition of a succession of clips, in other words, clips placed one after the other. In contrast, when you are working on a visual effect, you are concentrating on a single clip, building up complex effects using several layers stacked on top of each other. To help the user keep track, different types of elements are shown in different colours. In these clips, grey indicates videos, brown are pre-compositions.
Pre-compositions? Sorry, Joanne.
That's all right. I'll explain pre-comps in a minute. To go back to this illustration, red indicates solid colour elements, which are used for masks, shapes and text. It's the complete stack which will make one clip in the final video that is called a composition. Now to pre-comps. In a complex construction, it can be difficult to fit all the layers on the screen. Fortunately, clips can be collected into something called a pre-composition, or pre-comp for short, so that the task can be broken into smaller, more manageable pieces. This is a composition from the Season 2 titles. In this example, Titles Henry is the name of the composition. All these items are pre-comps, and all these items are layers. However, some compositions have 3 or 4 nested layers of pre-comps. When I make a change in one pre-comp, tracking all of its effects is akin to a problem in multispatial geometry. And here is the result.
Incroyable. How long did it take you to learn that?
I'm still learning. 8 years ago, I bought an introductory tutorial, and I have been studying the Adobe manual and the instruction videos ever since. Like I said to Nora earlier, I was looking for a retirement project which would challenge me, and I certainly got that. You will all have noticed that we add some items in post that do not exist in the game.
The Allion generator.
A location I created in post using the anteroom to Kadish's office in Anane as background. This is the team wrist device which Nora created for Season 1 and which Larry subsequently upgraded.
We deliberately gave these wrist devices the same shape and color as the keys so that we didn't have to replace the keys in every clip.
In addition, creating our own version has allowed us to show close-ups of some of the activity appearing on these devices. Here we see an alarm for an earth tremor. You can see how the software builds up the effect. The bottom layer is the underlying clip, then we have the wrist device, then the background to the writing, then the text. I have found these particular tools both very useful and incredibly tedious in visual effects work.
Everybody still awake?
Motion Tracker allows me to add an object to a scene and have it stay in place. A good example is the wrist device. As avatars continually move their hands, using Motion Tracker reduces the work needed to keep it in place. That is, when it actually works. To use Motion Tracker, I select 1 or 2 clearly defined points on the object I wish to follow, in this case the key. The algorithm tracks these and records the movement. If the object rotates or moves away from or towards the camera, it can measure that as well. We then apply this motion to the device, and the device happily follows the motion of the hand. Sadly, in some instances, Motion Tracker doesn't work. For example, when the object moves too much, the software is now looking in an area that doesn't include the chosen tracking point. In that situation, it is back to locating the object frame by frame, and as we film at 30 frames per second, this can be very tedious.
And the dreaded rotobrushing?
Rotobrushing allows us to embed an object in a scene so elements can pass in front of it.
Why is it called rotobrushing?
Back when everything was shot on film rather than video, rotoscoping was a technique used in location filming to insert objects into the landscape.
When we film in the conference room or the main part of the pub, Pierre-Andre is able to remove the view screen so that it is fairly easy for Joanne to put a modern screen, or, say, pub menu, in its place. However, she still has to rotobrush in every avatar that stands or walks in front of it.
Which is why you always want me to film in such a way to avoid this.
Exactly. Rotobrushing needs to be done frame by frame. If the algorithm identifies the edges of the piece being painted in clearly, it is not too tedious. But if the algorithm selects the edges of the thing you are trying to exclude, it is painful, as you have to correct every frame.
Oops. Is Zarek wearing his rotobook?
Well spotted. We either refilmed that, or that's another thing I covered up. When our viewers watch the Lost Art, they are probably not even aware that about 1/3 of the clips have been altered in some way in After Effects. But hopefully this attention to detail enhances their experience.
Easy peasy.
Thank you for this, Joanne.
C'est super intéressant.
All right then, off to the pub?
Well, I'm starving. Ben!
What did I miss?